Well, good morning, everyone. While I'm getting organized here, I just want to say thank you to everyone that was so kind over the holidays, that brought me gifts and treats, and all of you that brought cards and everything like that. That was amazing. So again, just thanks to both of you. You know, for those of you that are maybe visiting today and aren't used to me and when I speak, I like to start with a joke. Get people hopefully in a good mood so they don't throw things. And this being the season of turkey and fruitcake, speaking from experience, I know a lot of you probably have that in your pockets where you've put it so as not to have to ingest it over the last couple of days. I find that that's a safe place. You get the piece of fruitcake from Grandma, and then you slip it in there, and that was amazing, Grandma. No, thank you, I don't need another piece. That was more than rich enough for me. So anyways, I hopefully it will stay in your pockets this morning. I'm amazed. I'm always amazed that when I get up to speak, my mouth can be dry while I sweat uncontrollably. It's just wrong. Let's just take a moment and pray as we begin this morning. Father, this morning we come before you, and God, I would ask that by your Spirit that you would come, that you would work in each one of us today individually, and that you would work in us corporately as a church. Father, this time is short, but it can be significant by the work of your Spirit. So I pray to that end. God, take the words that you've given me, translate them to each one here this morning in ways that would be practical and relevant to them, so that by the time we leave, that we can go out of here different, that we can be closer to who you are, closer to who you want us to be, and better at touching our families, our friends, our loved ones, our neighbors, our community for you. So to that end, God, I pray, and I ask these things in your Son's name for his sake. Amen. What if it were true? What if it were true that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth? What if it were true that there is a God? Actually. What if it were true that this didn't all happen by chance, by fluke, but rather by design? What if it were true that there isn't a bunch of gods, but in fact that there is one true God? And what if it were true that this God is not anemic, but in fact powerful enough to create the heavens and the earth? A God with serious capacity that's in the microscopic all the way to the macroscopic, looking at each cell, designing each cell, and at the same time putting in place a solar system. What if it were true that he's not limited in his scope? He's just that big. What if it were true that God is good? That he looked down and as he was creating things, he would deem them good. It was good. That's good. And what if it were true that in fact, as we read in James 1:17, that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father? What if it were true that he's not only a good God and a powerful God, but he's a good God and a powerful God with a plan? That he's not just doing things for fun. That he's not just doing them randomly. That he's not just creating things for kicks and giggles because he can. But that he's doing this with intent and that he has a purpose. That he's going somewhere with this. That he's on a mission. And there is something that he is about to accomplish and that he's out to accomplish. God said, "Let there be light," Genesis 1:3. And there was light, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning the first day. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place. Let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land. And the gathered waters he called seas. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it according to their various kinds." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seeds according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And there was evening and there was morning the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vaults of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate light from darkness. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky." So God created the creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems and that moves about in it according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock and the creatures that move along the ground, the wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. A plan, moving along. And what if it were true that the intent of his plan is relationship? Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. And what if it were true that it didn't end with Adam and Eve? That he didn't just start with them and throw it into motion and is sitting back and watching it now, but in fact that every bit as intentionally as he started with Adam and Eve, he continues today. What if it were true that just as intentionally as he created Adam and Eve, he created you and me? Psalm 139, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And what if it were true that there is such a thing as sin? That sin is real. And what if it were true that because Adam sinned, we all sin? And that sin severs this relationship with God. That it circumvents his plan, his intent, the very heart of his purpose. What if that were true? But what if it were also true that just as sin entered the world through one man, a solution for that sin and separation from God came about through Jesus Christ, who entered the world and paid the penalty that is due all of us on our behalf? What if that were true? You can read a little bit more about that. I won't take the time this morning, but check out Romans 5, verses 12 to 21. What if that were true? And what if it were true that based on what we do, what we decide about that, we will go to heaven or we will go to hell? What if it were true that there actually is a heaven and that there is actually a hell? And that what pivots between us being in heaven or hell is this decision that we make about what Jesus Christ did or didn't do on our behalf. What if that were true, that it all hinges on that decision? Check out Revelation 20, verses 11 to 15. And lastly, what if it were true that God gave us his word so that we could not only find out about all of this, but then also know how to navigate in this world in which we find ourselves, in the mess that this world is in right now, towards the intent and the purpose that he had in mind. That he's given us this word, his word, as a playbook, as a guide, so that we don't have to guess. 2 Timothy 3:16. All Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, and for instruction in righteousness. What if that were true? So already I'm noticing that there's some concern on some of your faces. Pastor Mark's gone, not even a week yet. And here's Baynton on platform this morning questioning the tenets, some of the tenets of our faith. Questioning the things that we hold to as true. What's up with that? And this morning, I'm not questioning them. I'm asking the question in order to ask this next question. What if I believed it? There's no doubt that it's true. But what if I actually believed it? What if I believed that there is a God, one true God? And what if I believed that He is powerful enough to create this world? That is within the realm of His ability. And that He is big enough and that He is significant enough that He can work at the microscopic levels in my body, in the atmosphere around me, at the same time as He puts everything in place in a solar system and solar systems that are as big as they are. What if I believed that? What if I believed that He is good? That He's not doing this just for fun? That He's not doing this just because He can? But because He has a plan. And His plan is to have a relationship with me. What if I believed that? That He created me, that He knew me, that He was as intentional in creating me as He was in every other aspect of this world. What if I believed that? What if I believed that there is a thing such as sin? That sin is real. And that when I commit it, that I sever that relationship with this God that is all-powerful, that is intent on having a relationship with me. But that when I sin, when I indulge in that, that I derail that. And that if I am intent on sinning and not responding to God, that I will one day actually go to hell because I didn't deal with this whole aspect of sin in my life. What if I believed that? And what if I believed that the same applied to others around me? That if they don't deal with this whole issue of sin, the reality of sin, that my family, my loved ones, my friends, my neighbors, my community will go to hell. That actually is a place and that it's not pretty. What if I really believed that? What if I really believed that this is God's word? That the God who created this whole thing, that is intently working in and through it today, that wants a relationship with each and every one of us, has given us all of the details right here. That He has provided for us in a miraculous way so that we would be able to have a blueprint for our lives, a guidebook, a manual that would make Him understandable and relatable to us and give us the ability to navigate in the midst of the mess that we find ourselves in 2014. What if I really believed that? Would it change? Would it have changed the way that I lived my life this past year? Would it? As I look back on the last 12 months, if I really believed those things, would I have been different? Would I have responded differently to circumstances and situations? Would I have trusted that God has the ability, if He's made all of this, to somehow intervene in my life in significant ways to accomplish things that I can't do? Would I have trusted Him and engaged in this relationship process with Him? Tried to find out more about who He is, on what He's about and what He's trying to do, and how I relate to that, how I'm implicated in that? Would I have actually taken a shot at talking to my family or to my friends, to my loved ones that don't know Jesus Christ, and explain to them what hangs in the balance of that decision about who He is, who Jesus Christ is, what He came to do, and what happens when we don't find that and accept what He's done for us on our behalf? Would I have engaged with them over the course of these 12 months? Would I have found opportunities? Would I have actually not even just waited for an opportunity, but would I have tried to manufacture an opportunity somehow, some way, so that I could sit down with them and have a conversation that might actually have eternal significance? Of course, the answer to this is yes. If I really believed these things, it would have changed the way I lived my life this past year. It has to be, right? Because we're not perfect. And so we find ourselves just like the Father in Mark chapter 9. In Mark chapter 9, starting in verse 16, we hear this account. Jesus comes down. He's coming with some of his disciples. He's catching up to some other ones, and we pick it up there. He comes up, he says, "What are you arguing with them about?" he asked. A man in the crowd answered, "Teacher, I brought you my son, who is possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech. Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth and gnashes his teeth and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not. You unbelieving generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me. So they brought him. When the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, how long has he been like this? From childhood, he answered. It has often thrown him into the fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. If you can, said Jesus, if you can, everything is possible for one who believes. And immediately, the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help my unbelief. I'm that father today. We're that father today. We believe, but we need help with our unbelief, don't we? Every day this past year has been a day that presents a crisis of our faith, a crisis of belief. As we get up, we don't often recognize it, I don't think, because we're busy with our days. We're busy going about the things that we're going about. And pretty soon, we're on this agenda that we call life as we define it, and we're busy doing things that take us away from what we purport to believe. Quickly, we forget that there is a God, and we forget what He's done. We forget what His capacity is. We forget that He has the ability to work on levels that are so far beyond us that we can't even begin to fathom them. And so we forget to trust Him. We forget to consult with Him about that. Don't we? And every once in a while, maybe, we come back a little bit and we remember something and we try and course correct a little bit, but pretty soon, we're back into life again. And we forget to take time to pursue a relationship with this God, and we're not free to have a few minutes, some time to sit down and read His Word, find out what I should be doing today about these circumstances that I'm encountering with my family, that I'm encountering with my work, that I'm encountering in the world around me, and heaven only knows what we do with all of that stuff that's so big. So I'm just going to push that out, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to worry about my job, or I'm going to worry about this, or I got a new TV that I need to get. And so this crisis of faith hangs in the balance day by day. And oftentimes, our unbelief gets the better of us, doesn't it? We start to rely on ourselves. We start to rely on our plan. We start to rely on our objectives instead of the one that created us, the one that has a plan for us, the one that is good and can do things in our lives when we allow Him to and when we try and look for what He wants to accomplish in and through us. It needs to be our cry this morning. God, help us in our unbelief. Bring us back in line so that each day as I get up, I can persevere, I can overcome the unbelief in my life and tip towards the belief where I'll trust God, where I'll engage with Him, and where I'll participate in my life with Him and what He wants to do and how He wants to go about that. This morning, I want to do something that's a little bit different. I want to just take a little bit of time, and I'm going to let you talk to God now rather than me talk to you about all of this. I want you to take a few moments and just ask God to look back and show you this past year where things could have maybe been different. Where maybe you're not tracking with some of these tenets the way that we need to. Maybe you're not trusting that God is actually there. Maybe you're not trusting that He's good. Maybe you're not trusting that He can do some of the things that He can do. And you need to grow in that area. Maybe you need to talk to Him about how much you engage with Him in that relationship. Maybe you need to talk to Him about how much you share with others around you about who God is and what He's done in your life. So if you bow your heads for just a few minutes and ask God to point out those areas in your life so that as we go out of here today that you can actually have heard from Him about where you might be able to improve. Take that opportunity now. I trust that God's brought some things to mind for you this morning, that He's spoken to you individually about that, about where we've deviated maybe off of the things that we purport to believe, and we've been leaning on ourselves, our own understanding. And there's a danger this morning. I'm not sure where you're at, but there's a danger, and it falls in sort of almost two different ways. We can look back on the year behind us and we can say, wow, I have really blown it. There's a lot of things that I've missed, and I've strayed a long ways from what I think I've claimed to believe. We can go away here this morning defeated. And I don't want that. Or we can look back and we can say, wow, this was an amazing year. I've been on top of my game for 12 months. Maybe the best year I've ever had. And that's awesome. But we can't go away from here thinking that we've arrived now, that we've got this thing down, because that's not going to be healthy either. So there's one more question, and I think it's even the more important question that we need to consider this morning about what if it's true and what if I really believed it. And that question is this: if it's true and I really believe it, then will it change the way I live the year ahead? That's the question that we really need to look at today. Looking back is valuable. Somebody once said that those that don't study history are doomed to repeat the mistakes of history. That's a good thought. There's a lot of wisdom in that. So we can look at our lives and we can see our history and we can see where we've messed up, where we've made mistakes, and we can learn from that. So let's do that. But it's really important that we also look forward and determine from what we've learned of the past how to face the future. Somebody else once told me, I don't know if it's true or not, but somebody else once told me that 9/10 of a decision is made before we're in the circumstance. So this year, we're going to get up each day and we're going to face a crisis of faith. Every day it's going to play out in our lives, each one of us. So we can determine today how we're going to respond to that crisis of faith. What we decide today, what we determine today will go a long ways to helping us actually accomplish it in the year coming up. So I'd encourage you not to get bogged down on how good or bad a year it's been in 2014, but now to take some time over the course of the next few hours, next day or so, to set aside some time with God and say, okay, God, help me now to determine some things that will help me navigate the crisis of my faith every day this coming year. And I am confident that the God who created this world, that is intently looking for a relationship with you, who has provided a way for that relationship to be restored in full, will do that. He will meet you and He will help you to set a course for this coming year that is going to take you closer to Him, closer to who He wants you to be, and closer to who we can become as a church, as we try and then impact our community and share Christ with the community around us so that they too can have a relationship with Him and navigate life in the full intent of what He intended it to be for them as well. Team's going to come and they're going to close in a last song, and then I'm going to come back and just give us a couple more thoughts. Maybe you're here this morning and you're still at that point where you're asking, is it true? Is it true? Could it be true that there is a God, that He has a plan, that it includes me? And you haven't come to the point where you've been able to say, I believe that yet. You know what? And I can appreciate that. We were all there at one point. We had to make that choice, make that decision. Am I going to take that step of faith? Am I going to actually move from the question to actually the belief? So if you're in that spot and you're wanting to talk about it, we'd love to talk to you about it. There's evidence for it. I haven't gone into it this morning, but there is evidence for all of these points, and we'd love to talk to you about that. So if you'd want to come and talk to us, or if you're still just wanting to process that a little bit more slowly, stick with us at church. Plan to be with us in the coming weeks, because we've got lots of things coming up that will help you as you navigate those questions and as you consider them. And I'll look forward to talking to you at some point down the road. Or maybe you have come to that point where you're stepping up and you're saying, you know what, I've been here for a while now. And I think I actually do believe this. I want to formalize that. I do want my 2015 to be different than 2014. I want to live like I believe it. I mean, you're just wondering, you don't know how to do that formally and make sure that you've got that covered. Well, then again, we'd love to talk to you. Come and talk to me or one of the other staff. We'd love to talk to you about that and help you solidify that. And for the rest of us that are somewhere in between, where we've made that decision before and we're still trying to figure out how that works, then again, take some time, sit down with God and ask Him to help you see how you can make that even more the case this year, where you believe and your life reflects what you say you believe in such a way that God uses you at a whole new level and engages with you at a whole new level as we go into the year ahead. We're going to start another series coming up in just a couple weeks called Frozen, 4 Ways to De-Ice Your Faith. We're excited about that because we're serious about this. We want to actually move forward in our relationship with God. And next week, we're going to sort of set the stage for that with sort of a State of the Union, sort of a sermon, if you will. You'll have to put up with me once more. So we'll look forward to that. It's also communion next week, so it's another great reason to be here as we just celebrate what Christ did for us on the cross, right after this season where we celebrate the mission that He came to start in Bethlehem some 2,000 years ago. So have a great week. Go with God and make 2015 amazing in your crisis of faith. You're dismissed.